Hi, everyone, and welcome to the AI Interconnect podcast, where we dive deep with founders, builders, and business leaders. We are reshaping how industry operates using tech, automation, and just the right touch of bold thinking. I'm your host, Laurent, and today we are exploring a challenge that is quietly killing productivity in real estate: disconnected systems, CRM that don't sync, leads lost in the shuffle, data entry nightmares. And joining me is Scott Sillari, CEO of RealSync company that's um, solving exactly that. And RealSync provides seamless integrations between the core tools real estate teams rely on, with a focus on reliability, simplicity, and done for you setup. This isn't about dashboard or shiny features. It's about fixing the plumbing so the whole tech stack actually works. Scott, great to have you on. Thank you for being here.
Laurent, thank you for having me. I appreciate it. Very excited to be here.
Very cool. Very cool.
Yeah,
Let's have a great conversation,
yeah,
and
absolutely.
we want to learn a lot. You're not going to learn from me, but I'm going to learn from you today. And Scott, thanks for joining. Then I think you are deep in the trenches, helping teams streamline operation.
Yeah,
So I appreciate you making time.
yeah, no
Um,
problem. Excited to be here.
Fantastic. I have followed RealSync for a while now, and I think your role in the ecosystem is one of those mission critical pieces um, most people don't even realize they're missing. And until they see what sync actually looks like.
Yeah.
And before we get into the tech, let's talk about your journey. What was your path leading into real estate and then ultimately into building a real sync?
Yeah, it's a good question. Yeah. So, I actually when I got out of college, I didn't really know what I was gonna do. And I first started working at a mortgage brokerage, and it probably could have been a good career there, but I started off as an assistant processor, and I was not good with the details. I'm much more of a sales business development guy, so I promptly got they fired. It was a mutual understanding that it wasn't a good position for me. And then I became a certified home appraiser. So I was in real estate in that sense, appraising homes. I like that much more. Um, that is really where I got my chops and understanding different perspectives around real estate. So I was working like in the industry, right? And then from there, I developed through a sales career with some other companies, realizing that was kind of where my fit was with the business development, and then circle back to 2012, and um, I started working at a marketing firm that was helping real estate teams. And so every day I was getting on calls with real estate agents or, business owners or broker owners. I mean, you name it, I was talking to them and really learning like the needs and problems of the industry. And in tech was just beginning, in real estate seems to always be behind a lot of other industries in the space. So, um, people are literally just starting to move from spreadsheets to using a CRM or a customer management system, and that was new, right? So uh, just starting to learn about the problems and the inadequacies of technology in the space, led us to RealSync, which we started in 2017. And really, the term API like didn't even exist in the space. Like people didn't even know what that was. We were at a tech conference, and it was new terminology for them because all these systems that were being built that people were using were sitting on islands. So we thought there was an opportunity for us to build a middleware solution that could start connecting with all these different applications and CRMs in the space. And part of that journey would be, helping these other companies build APIs as well, and kind of guide them on the importance of being open and data sharing when it comes to, when that correlates into client retention and holding on to clients, and giving them the control of what tech stack they want to build within their business, right? So that's where we kind of really leaned in and got some funding and started building this solution.
Okay, yeah, that
Yeah.
makes sense. That's beautiful. I love it. When it comes from deep inside, um, was there any, I mean, a tipping point or experience where you realized this is broken and we need to fix it?
Yeah, I think we were at an Inman conference in 2018, and one of the biggest CRM solutions in the space, that had, was doing great business, thousands and thousands of clients, didn't have an API to connect to anything, and didn't understand what it was. And we really, at that point, that was kind of a tipping point of, oh, we can help them build this thing and then enable their users to connect to all these other solutions in the space. And I think that was the real tipping point for us, understanding like this is something that we can solve.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
Your vision about solving integration.
Yeah.
And then you had the idea pretty soon. It didn't evolve over time,
Yeah. I mean,
or did it?
it started with like, let's connect this to that, right? Like two solutions, and then quickly realize that we can build a whole model and scale on this idea of allowing people to seamlessly go and set up their own integration, because it's pre-built, right? We understand the real estate agent and what they need out of maybe this specific application, over here, like this phone application, right? Or this email marketing solution. We know what data they need in it and what data they need out of it to make it, to automate it and connect it to their source of truth, their data truth, which generally should be their CRM, right? Where they're managing all their leads and contacts and clients. That's kind of the foundation of, we want to connect this to these other ancillary applications that potentially are doing bits and pieces of what we need, to, whether it's to get a client or to manage a client through the transaction, or to, or more of like operational type things where it's, seeing your data, or again, like using a phone system so that you can, have phone numbers on different marketing and branding and signs and stuff. And then those phone calls come in, you can route them to certain places. So there's so much opportunity in things that weren't connected. So it was just like islands of data everywhere in the space. And, when we first started, like that wasn't something that anyone ever asked about, when it came to like a real estate team. They would never think like, does this connect to that, before they signed up for this solution?
No,
I've
sure.
seen over the last, 7-8 years, right, that conversation has changed. People, when they're going to use a new solution now, are asking those questions like,
Yeah,
will this fit into my tech stack? Does it connect to my CRM? Does it connect where I need to use it? And if it doesn't, I probably shouldn't use it, right? So that's a big culture shift in the industry,
yeah,
and it took a long time to get there, honestly. I mean, and obviously I see that. I'm having, every single day I'm talking to 4 or 5 real estate business owners, right? And you multiply that out over 8 years, it's a lot. So, seeing those trends and adjustments in the thinking of the industry in itself is nice to see. But yeah, that's kind of, when we back up to what I was talking about, as far as like, we quickly realized that we could build a common model, a proprietary integration platform, kind of like a custom Zapier in a sense, and have all these APIs connected and then route them, and path them to different systems. And that's what we started to build.
Yeah, that's so true what you said regarding connectivity and
Yeah.
how much we changed lately. Um, okay, let's talk about the problem you solved or you're solving. And for those outside the space, can you describe what real estate operation actually looks like before a tool like RealSync is in place
Yeah.
and
So,
after?
yeah. So, there's, yeah, it's a good question. For a real estate business, right? Whether it's a single agent or a team of 5 or 10 or 15, obviously the larger the organization, the more technology is brought into what they're doing, right? But generally, some of the problems we would see would be, from the top of the funnel when you're generating a lead, a lot of these lead aggregating companies don't have APIs and they don't even care to build them. They just want to generate a lead and send it to your email. And now it's stuck in your email inbox, right? So then, what would happen is they'd be copying and pasting the data and creating a lead that way, right? And that's just the start of that, right? That's one scenario. Or, if they're at an open house, they're taking down information or having people sign in. I mean, again, this is before we started infusing ourselves into these new ideas, right? They'd be taking, names down and then have to come back to the office and enter them into the CRM, right? So things like that, when you're talking about the top of the funnel and how they're generating leads, or even if they are using a phone solution, let's say they're generating Google local services leads, right? Through Google, through their Google profile. Those leads would just end up in Google. So they'd be stuck there, right? So if the team owner answered the phone, then they'd have to go log back in. If it was an actual opportunity, get that recording and data out of Google and then get it into their CRM again, right? So like there is just this disconnect of these systems, right? And same with one of the main ones that we connected to early on was called VoicePad. There's a bunch of them out there, but basically it would be, if you had a listing and you had a sign in the yard for that property, and there'd be a text or a phone number on there that you could text and get property info. Again, same type of thing. That's a potential lead of someone that may want to buy a home on your property. It would end up getting stuck in that system, and then what would happen is that an agent would go in there with the new lead and try to call it one time. And then if they can't get a hold of it, they're going back into the CRM and working the leads they have in there. And these leads are just sitting there and no one's calling them because they're on this island in this other system, right? So these are a lot of the ideas that we're understanding that it is a big problem when it came for getting the leads into the CRM. Because once you get into CRM, these CRMs were advancing, and getting better with like drip emails and automation within that solution, but you had to get the lead in. So that was one of the things that we solved initially, is like, let's connect this call system into the CRM. Let's, get these leads that are going into your email inbox. Just create routing rules and parses and all this stuff to get the leads in and automate that process. And so we were doing all that in the front end, right? So that's some good examples of where we started. And then over time, as new solutions came into the space, we would be the first that they would call to make a connection to all the major CRMs that we had already integrated with, right? So, you get your lead, goes into the CRM, and then it's like, all right, a lot of these CRMs don't have a transaction management component. It's just the lead that you're working. And once you get it to the transaction stage, you're working out of a different system. Okay, so now you have to push the lead data and the notes and the lead source and the agent and all that information into this other system. That's whether it's DocuSign Online or Dotloop or Skyslope or Brokerman or some of these systems that you would actually manage the transaction in, right? So now we're having to move the data out of the CRM because these CRMs don't have the capability to have a transaction management suite, right? and some do now, but most still don't. And the other problem we're running into as we're doing all this is that a lot of these systems didn't build their APIs, like they didn't do enough with the API, meaning like they they only allow you to pull out certain data, but not all the data. So now you're in this position where we're connecting and then having to work with this application, say, hey, can you like add these features to your API so we can get more data out for the client? So just a lot of different, man, it was a jumbled mess, honestly, jumbled mess that we were trying to work with to solve this problem. So it was a big uphill battle because of those things. But we were trying to make this connectivity, the electricity in the walls, in a sense, to all the different tech systems and the outlets that you'd have in your house, right? So that from the time someone is coming in the top of the funnel to the time they're, close their transaction, that all the systems you'd be using in between, we've plumbed, create bridges of data to that CRM, which is usually the source of truth for the real estate company.
Yeah, well, no, very clear. What the cost of disconnected tool in the brokerage environment? I mean, it's a disaster for them.
Yeah. And the other thing with brokerages, which is a different, like, you have your real estate agent, your real estate teams in the US, right? Which is, just an agent that works under a brokerage like Remax, let's say, and they have their own business with, and they just use Remax as their broker. But then you actually have the Remax broker too. So you have these teams that were within a brokerage maybe, or a broker owner that runs the business a little bit different. And he has all these agents just kind of they're all 1099 doing whatever they want, right? In that scenario, then you have these teams that are part of a Remax, let's say, but Remax has solidified technology that they want you using. And the team, though, has their own technology they want to use for their processes. So all of a sudden you have this, again, like this bottleneck of data being stuck because these systems don't all connect, right? And so that's what we're constantly trying to solve.
Yeah. And this is not just about convenience. It's about performance, speed to lead, revenue leakage, right?
It's missed opportunities. I mean, the amount of missed opportunities when your tech doesn't connect it goes through the roof. It's exponential. If you don't have these systems, and if you don't have your, for the longest time too, like these website companies with the IDXs where you can search for homes and everything, a lot of them didn't connect well to the CRMs too. So we're having to do that too, right? And it's like, okay, so now the owner or the agent has to go and log into their website CRM, which is behind the scenes basically, to see like which buyers are favoriting homes that they like, because that data is not flowing out of there into the CRM, right? So it was just this, it was like a minefield of chaos. It became a big puzzle that was a lot harder to solve than we anticipated, I'll tell you. But that's how business is. That's the life of a new business, right? It's all good. But it was very interesting early on. We're like, as we got in the weeds, and we're like, oh my God, are we even going to be able to solve this? And we did, for the most part, for a lot of systems. But there's never ending tech, right? There's 1,000 different technology platforms, right? So you have to pick and choose which ones actually, fit the market that you're trying to work with and help,
Yeah, challenges bring opportunities. Okay, let's talk about your model. And so let's get into it. What's the RealSync product stack today, and how do you structure integration and services, pre-built versus custom setup, or hand-on onboarding or do-it-yourself platform,
Yeah.
things like this.
Yeah. So our original product would be, you sign up and then you can go and connect the integrations on your own. But what we quickly realized was that, you got to understand your client, right? And the real estate business owner is more of a salesperson than an actual operations type person, right? So
Yeah.
they don't have the patience to figure out what they're supposed to be doing. So we quickly realized that we had to do a lot of onboarding and help and support,
Yeah.
or we had to partner with the company that we were connecting to and give them like a master account so they can go and just set up the integrations for the client, right? So for instance, we still have a client that we work with called Fellow that, will send their client through a portal just to sign up, and then they'll gain access and set up the integration for the client. So the client doesn't have to do anything, right? So that was, so we had a couple different models there. We still, and that's still very accessible, that whole process. For the most part, people using our integration platform are coming in for more of a custom solution now, just because things continue to constantly expand. There's different solutions on there. We have access to a lot of different solutions, but there's so many different technology platforms that a lot of people are, coming in for some sort of custom setup. So what ends up happening is, early on we realized that if we built an integration into Zapier into our platform, we would be able to enable all the different solutions that are on Zapier through the APIs of all these systems we are connected to. So you can just get a lot more data in and out. So a lot of clients are coming to us with custom, services type things where we just, it's like usually one off. We bill them some hours and then set it up, and then it's running, and there's just a monthly fee, right? So, and I love that because it allows us to then be a lot more, we can adjust to like what's the need of the client, rather than, hey, this is all we have on our platform that's API to API, right? It allows us to really do whatever work is necessary to help that specific business owner. And so that's a lot of the work that we do right now. One of the newer integrations that we just released is like we connected Dotloop, which is a transaction management solution, to Follow Up Boss. And it's been a big need for those that use Follow Up Boss. And so we made a custom connection through Zapier, through our platform, into Follow Up Boss to enable all this extra data that you wouldn't be able to go do on your own, right? Without some custom development. So, things like that, we were able to do a lot more because of some of the newer tech and using our proprietary platform. And so it's this fun puzzle that we're always solving,
I love it. Super interesting.
Yeah.
Support layers. Okay, then that manage integration layer
Yeah.
is very interesting. It's not just API. It's accountability.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I mean,
Oh,
like you know, um, yeah, I mean, once you set something up like this, it's hard to go back, right? Because you realize
yeah,
like, oh, like I can't believe I was doing this process this other way.
yeah.
It's funny because I, when I talk to clients, I remember one client we worked with, and it was as simple as like he was getting all these leads into his email, and he just like was losing sleep over like missing, because he's so busy getting the leads into the system to work them. And, we simply just put a parser and scrape the data and then automate it into a CRM and then set up some, rules around the lead and the tags and everything. And then they were getting, a workflow automation once they got into the system. And he was like, it like was mind blowing for him how much better he felt just about that one thing, and it's like, it was pretty simple for us because we've been doing it for so long, but like, there's just like this constant need of, there's so many people that need these types of solutions built, right? And so that was that's where that product still lives, and we're constantly working with people to get these things set up. But also what we realized is like we were aggregating all this data and not giving anyone a visual of it, right? So, over the last year and a half, we built this new solution on top of our current platform, like a business intelligence solution and like data dashboards, where we can connect to our business intelligence to your CRM and then to QuickBooks and aggregate all your data into like a nice dashboard of reports so you can see cleanly like what's actually going on in your business, understand where there's potential missed opportunities, what your team and agents are doing. So we added this on top because we realized that, we have all this data, we're pushing all this data around, but there's no way for the client to see it because it's just in the walls, right? And it's like, all right, well, let's pull some of it out and put it visually for them on a dashboard so they can actually see what's happening in their business, because a lot of these tools don't have very good reporting solutions. It's like most of them actually don't have good reporting, right? They just are like they build themselves for one thing, right? And that's great because they do that one thing very well, but the reporting aspect where the client can actually understand like what's happening with this data or this lead or this transaction, a lot of that slips through the cracks. So we decided to layer that on top of what we already built so that we can show them what's actually happening in their business too.
Yeah, I love it. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
beautiful. That's very cool. Okay, zooming out a bit,
Yeah.
what are you seeing in the broader PropTech landscape? Are brokerage and platform becoming more tech savvy? I think it
Yeah.
has to.
So, the biggest thing, like, like the key word of the day is like AI, right? But what I've been seeing is how people are layering, those that are tech savvy, and there's more of them in the space, right? Because, what I've seen over the last, decade or so is that, entrepreneurs are getting into real estate and building businesses and never even selling real estate. They just hire real estate agents, right? So it's an opportunity for someone to come in and just build a business. So I've seen a lot more of that over the last decade as well, where it's not just like an agent that turns into a business owner. So there's just a lot more tech savvy people within the space. And a lot of them are incorporating, Chat GPT and these different AI solutions. There's AI solutions that you can use now to build websites you could, if you're tech savvy enough, you can go build a voice calling solution or, a coaching solution using AI, right? So a lot is going that direction, and reducing the amount of, the backup. Like in an ideal world, if I was a real estate business owner and I had sales agents, like I don't want them doing literally anything other than talking to a customer or being at an appointment. Everything else they're not going to be good at, right? And then things are going to slip through the cracks because that's not their personality set. Their personality is to be social, talk on the phone, not prospect. They're terrible at that. Real estate agents are the worst. They don't want to prospect. All they want to do is talk to people that are qualified that actually may want to buy or sell a home, right? So what you're going to see is everything in between getting that lead, getting that agent on a call is all going to be automated with AI somehow or another, and that's really where I see the space going. And eventually agents for the most part aren't going to exist. And what I mean by that is that there will be maybe one agent that can do the sales of 10 because everything else is being taken care of around that particular, like in that particular business by AI. And eventually we'll have bots going to do open houses and there won't be humans doing it. There's a lot happening over the next, what are we in 2025? Man, by 2040, this whole industry is going to be completely different, even before that, probably. And
Probably.
Innovators want to, like, you can see these big companies like Zillow and Realtor.com, they're already pushing on the commission, right? So like, you could be, if you're doing Zillow Flex, you can be spending 30, 35, 40% of the commission, to Zillow because they gave you this very high qualified lead, right? It's only going to there's only be more of that, more push down and pull out, pulling the commission and lowering the commission that goes to the actual agent, right? Over time, it's going to continue to happen. And the innovators want to get rid of the agents because most of them are very ineffective and inefficient, straight up, right? So, when you look at a real estate team, most teams I talk to, if they have 15 agents, there's only 3 or 4 of them doing a lot of production. The rest are just a waste or doing a couple transactions. And I'm going to be, I'm being honest, right? And those that know that, like, they're doing 3 to 5, I think the average agent does like 6 transactions a year. It's like, what are they doing in this industry, right? And so the reality is as well is because the real estate board won't make adjustments to qualifications on becoming a real estate agent because it's way too easy. Like, it's easier than getting a high school diploma. I mean, my God, it's so easy to get a license. It's crazy. So they're not going to make those adjustments. So what's going to happen is these big tech companies are going to push all these agents out of the space by squeezing the commission to where only the ones that actually are good at their job or understand how to leverage themselves are going to be the ones that stay in the space. And then AI is going to be doing everything else.
Yeah, it's going to be a lot of changes. I know that.
Yeah,
exactly. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's yeah, and on your side,
I know
let's
that was a lot. That was a lot to swallow. I'm sorry.
No, I'm not an agent. I know perfectly this. I agree 100%.
Yeah.
I mean, some are talking about humanless buy and sell, but I mean, I don't know yet. I mean, one human and everything automatized, but it could be soon. I mean, it could be. Let's see what happens.
You think about the process in itself, and it's like there's just a lot of redundancy and things that are very unnecessary because of these weird rules by, the MLS or the National Association of Realtors or whatever. But like, a lot of this stuff can be done just on a phone app eventually, all the communication, like the offer, you just click a button as a buyer and you put your own offer in, right? You don't need an agent to do that stuff. A lot of this stuff is going to be, again, like pulled away from the agents, whether it's from the buyer or seller side, because they've created better automation or AI or things that can happen, or from the broker owner and technology side of the real estate space. It's just going to keep squeezing down the responsibilities of the agent to where they're, where they don't matter anymore. And then there's like, and this is going to happen in a lot of industries where there's just a lot of redundancy and like a lot of like just waste within those spaces. That stuff's going to get cleaned up with AI,
Yeah. I agree. Yeah. That's a beautiful word. Let's talk about challenges on your side. What's the hardest part? What's the hardest part about building integration across third-party platform?
Yeah, it's a good question. So, I think the hardest part over the years has been, for us, like if we enable a certain solution and we get 1,000 clients using an integration, let's say, well, that's because we enable that solution, they're doing really well business wise. And it makes a lot of sense for them to go build a direct integration to that CRM. And then we lose that revenue. So that's been one of the biggest challenges that we've had to overcome over the years, is that scenario of, and Zillow is a good example. They were one of our partners, and then for a couple of years, and then they didn't need us anymore. And, we lose that business, right? So some of that is, just being at the third party that no one wants to pay for integration. That's the thing too, even though it's super valuable, a lot of times they don't want to pay for it. The realtor doesn't want to pay for it, and the partner doesn't want to have a cut coming out of their their revenue, right? So that's one of the things that we've had to like adjust our partner agreements and kind of figure out over the years. That was one of the big hurdles that we figured out. But in the end, you find the right partners and make adjustments so that those things, so you're not as volatile, right? When you're building, and you have better partners for that, right? But the other way that we've combated that is also having our own product now that people actually use, where we're not just the wires in the walls, right?
Yeah. I mean, you need to adapt and make changes. And are API the main friction, or is it more on the client side, education, expectation, change management?
Yeah, I mean, it's all of that, right? It's like, what
Yeah.
is the API good that you're dealing with? What's the expectation of the client? What do they think that can happen? Because again, like a lot of times what you do in a system is not reflected on the back end at all, right? On like what data we could see. So the agent might be like, well, I put this note in. Why can't I move this note over here to this other system? I was like, well, because there's compliance and security around everything that you type into your CRM, and they're not allowing us to see it to move that data. Right. So it's a lot of that stuff too, that you're having to constantly educate your clients about and inform them when they come in. And because they don't know until they're trying to solve the problem. Like they're not going to the CRM company and go, what's everything that you can do in the API before I sign up? It's just, they're one of the questions that they ask is like, does it integrate? And you could say, yes, we integrate to all sorts of stuff. But like, how good are those integrations? How much data can you actually get in and out? Right. They're not asking those questions. Right. So a lot of times we're having to educate them after the fact and say, hey, like, there's privacy policies around some of the content in your system, or, for whatever reason, they don't, when you create an appointment in your system, we can't see it in the back. So we have no idea that there was an appointment created. We can't do anything to help you move that data somewhere or show you like that, you've had, 10 appointments last week, let's say in our dashboard. We can't give you that data. Right. So then there's like workarounds, and it just makes it very like, it just makes it janky, man, but, we find solutions, we find ways if the client wants to, but there's a lot of education constantly to answer your question around what's available in these APIs, And honestly, like I'm very transparent when I get on calls with people and they're trying to make decisions on what tech, like it's not my job to like say, I like this one or I like that one. It's my job is to tell them this one does this in its API and you have this access and it has connectivity to these different systems. And this one does this, and this one does this, and this one does this. You have to make a decision for yourself what's best. But I'll be very straightforward about what it does and doesn't do, because that's fact. It's not an opinion, right? And so, I kind of sit in this middle place as a middleware company of understanding all these things. And I can advise people based on what they're looking for, what's the best solution for you. And it's not the same. Every business is a little bit different, right? Some businesses, I recommend they go more of a custom route using a HubSpot or a Zoho. I rarely recommend Salesforce for real estate just because it's such an enterprise type solution. It doesn't really make sense for most real estate organizations. But some of these other lower cost customizable solutions sometimes fit. Or there's a lot of CRMs in the space specific for real estate businesses or property management businesses or mortgage that you could use, right?
That's right. That's right.
Yeah.
It sounds like your biggest value is often in being the calm in the chaos.
Yeah.
Translating between platform and sales team, tech vendors. Okay, yeah.
Yeah, it's a lot. I should start charging for consults.
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, let's. what's next for RealSync?
Great question.
Are you
I love it.
are you looking for to layer more intelligence,
Yeah.
like predictive workflows and automation triggers, analytics?
Yeah, all that. So, you know, we're really excited about we've been working again, like I said, for the last year and a half on this platform. We released it probably, for people to start using it maybe 6-8 weeks ago. And so our roadmap with that is just expansive. And so we've layered in AI into our platform where there's actually a virtual AI assistant within the platform that you can talk to and get feedback on your data. So it actually can read between the lines. So not only are you getting the data that you can visually see, but then you can also talk to this assistant. And so we have a big roadmap with her or it, to continue to inform it, to guide you, almost like sales, like a sales or operation type person within your data dashboard. So we're building that out, which is really exciting. And then in addition, we're going to keep expanding on the business intelligence within the data. So the first kind of hurdle is getting all the data in accurately, right? And connecting to the right systems, getting your financial data into our solution so that you can see like what's your P&L right now in real time. Like, what does that look like? What does your business look like? Where do you need to make adjustments on where you're spending your money in your business, right? So we're showing you all that. And then we're showing you we're going to start showing you your front end with, the leads that are coming in. What's your speed to lead? Which agents are calling the lead fast enough? Conversion metrics around that. So a lot of analytics and conversion metrics, like what's working, what lead sources are you getting a return on? We're aggregating that data in. You can add in like which ones you're actually spending money on. So it's giving you all these numbers. So we're getting all this data in. Now we're going to start giving you more and more notifications and intelligence around that, allowing your agents to have a phone application so they have access to the data as well and see what things they need to be working on, things that are at risk, leads they need to be following up with. So that's kind of a roadmap. And then in coinciding with that, we're going to continue to expand with this platform, which systems we decide to bring in data from, which is we're being much more strategic about with this platform compared to our integration platform that, it's like we connect to whatever, right? Then to help you move data. As far as our business intelligence, we want to make sure that we're connecting with the right systems to bring in the right data. So it really supports the real estate teams, right? And also like it, when you start showing data, you need to make sure you're connecting to systems that are allowing you to get all the data you need, right? Where, as we talked about earlier, a lot of these systems out there don't have robust APIs, so you can't get a lot of data. So it almost doesn't make sense if you're going to be showing someone that you want to show them a full dashboard of data, you can't be connecting to a system that you can only get fractional data out of. So that's kind of the roadmap, and eventually we're going to have a suite for mortgage and title as well, where they're in the dashboard from their view, and then all these different dashboards and connectivity is happening through the transaction process.
Okay, yeah, makes sense and beautiful. Do you see expansion opportunities like international markets or different partnerships or integration beyond real estate also?
Yeah, I mean,
Maybe.
we'll stay in the realm. I think, like I mentioned, mortgage, title,
Yeah.
and insurance. I think like everything that fits into, a real estate transaction is kind of our roadmap. Certainly down the road, there could be opportunities that make sense to expand into other industries. But as far as right now, there's enough tech to connect to in those three industries right there. As far as
No, of course.
expanding international, we do work with clients that are in Canada and Mexico right now as well. And I think because the real estate processes are pretty close to what's in America. As far as the UK and over in Europe, I'm not as familiar with what the processes are. I know I did go out to UK one time and we worked with some real estate teams that were expanding Keller Williams and expanding, where they'd be using some of the same tech, but it's certainly a lot. It's certainly different. The rules and regulations are different, or they're might be less of them, but it's always it doesn't really matter. If you end up using technology, whether you're in Europe or in the US, if you're using tech that we can support, then there's an opportunity there for sure.
Yeah, no, definitely. No, makes sense. And I imagine there's a lot of white space here, especially as real estate platform continue to stack up tools without centralization.
Yeah.
Then a lot of integration you can do.
Yeah, absolutely. There's always
yeah,
opportunity for integration.
of
It's
course. Yeah.
constant. It's constant. It's a matter of solidifying the right type of partnerships, right, at this point when it comes to at least API to API integrations. The nice thing about using a company like Zapier or Make.com is that they've connected to a lot of things, and so we can work with but you have to kind of understand code a little bit, right? So for us, we can go and just we can use those platforms and tie them into ours and really create some cool integrations without having to go and do like a full custom developed API to API integration. So it makes it a lot easier for people to kind of get integrations done that they want with these other tools that we can tie into our platform.
Yeah. Are you using N88?
What is it?
N8N.
N8N. No, I don't know what that is. I'd love to learn about it.
It's like Make. It's like Make.com.
Okay, got it. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm sure you know that. Okay, then, all right. Some quick takes before we wrap up. What's one belief you hold about PropTech that most other don't?
Yeah. That's a good question, man. I have a lot of beliefs, but do others believe the same thing? I don't know.
Yeah, you don't care. It doesn't matter what you believe.
Yeah. Well, I think what's happening in the PropTech, specifically in real estate, right, is that you have these big companies that continue to eat up other companies. They buy up other companies. They're trying to create these all-in-one solutions. And I'm of the other side of that. And what I mean by that is I think no matter how well you do that and have these solutions connected, and maybe you have 3 or 4 different things under one roof, the agent and the real estate teams are always going to dictate what technology they want to use, right? And I just think I think it's the wrong approach to
definitely.
Like if you do that, then make sure that you are very open to integration too, right? And I look at the example, the reason Follow Up Boss, which is a big real estate CRM in our space, was purchased by Zillow for $500 million is because it stayed in its lane and it was always an open solution to integration because it wasn't trying to be 1, 2, 3, 4 different things. And so I think that model is what works because it allowed the real estate agents to decide what technology they want to use around that specific CRM, and I think that's always going to be the case because these business owners want to have control of the technology they use in their business because of how it feels to them, right? Not necessarily of how it performs. It's a feeling. It's a feeling at the end of the day of like, I like using this tech. It works. It's got to work too, of course, but I like using this tech. It feels good. This is what I want to use. And I need it to connect to these other things, right? And I think ultimately, like, they're going to, real estate team owners are going to drive that. And that's why you're always seeing new technology coming into the space because there's opportunities for you to create a feeling like that for someone,
Wonderful. Great answer.
Yeah.
What's a common mistake teams make when building a tech stack?
This goes back.
This you should know.
Yeah. This goes back to what we talked about earlier. So the common mistake I still see, and I'm constantly talking to people about, is they get into a system and they don't realize, one, what it does, like just using it, and like what they actually can do with it, and then two, like how they can get data in and out. Right? They heard on the sales pitch that it has integration, but they didn't hear like that it was limited to like 2 or 3 different things that they don't even need. Right? So I think a lot of times it's constantly like my advice to someone that's building a real estate business or looking for different technologies to infuse into their business. The first thing you have to figure out is, does this integrate at a high level, meaning like the majority of data in and out of my CRM? Does it connect the way I need it to connect? You've got to answer that question first. Then the rest of it is, does the system actually work? What's the cost of it? All these other things. But that question you need to be asking first. How does it fit in to your current operational model, right? Does it make sense to bring this new tech in there, right? And what's the value ultimately on your bottom line if you do it? Is it going to be positive, or is it going to be a burden? Are you going to add this tech solution and not have anyone take responsibility because you, as the business owner, you're too busy? You got to have, you have to, if you add a solution, like the general rule of thumb is you need to be using it at 80% of its capacity. Otherwise it's a waste, right? 100% would be nice. It's hard to get to 100% on all tools, right? There's a lot that these tools have, but 80% at least, right? And so does it connect? And then are we going to use it? Is it cost effective? And is it going to bring more money to my bottom line? Are the things that I'd be asking? And then you give it a trial run, right? And make sure that that's something that fits all those questions that you're asking. Because again, to answer your question, is people aren't doing that enough. And that's constantly, when I get on calls, the problems I'm trying to help them solve.
That's right. Makes sense.
Yeah.
Great answer. One company or funder you think is doing a real smart work right now, lately?
So a company that we partnered with, they went to market, I guess it's been 2.5 years now, called Fellow, highfellow.com. And it's HIFELLO. They're doing some really good things. I know the 2 owners of the company, and nice. They smartly, they realized, well, initially they're trying to be another product, but they adapted right really quickly as they went to market, and it was smart. So they realized that these agents have been paying and generating all these online leads for a decade, let's say, right? And there's gold sitting in these databases for these clients, but they don't have the capacity, or they didn't have the right tools to work the leads. And so what Fellow's done is created this very good marketing, data-driven, like, send the email at the right time, send a newsletter or direct mail at the right time, or text message, all the stuff, to do that into your database and drive traffic back to your website to re-opt in and re-engage. So they created a solution where basically you're paying them to re-engage the leads you already generated to get business from those leads. And it was a really smart model, and it's working really well for a lot of people that have at least sizable databases. So I think they've done a really good job innovating, and they continue to innovate and add new solutions and new ways to engage, the consumers.
I love it. That's great. Yeah. That's great. Very, very cool. Scott, that was a great one. Thank you so much. Your work at RealSync sit behind the scene, but it's enabling a lot of forward motion for teams that want to modernize, and it's very, very important. Thank you very much for your insight and for the time.
Absolutely.
It was great.
Thank you for having me. I really appreciate it.
Thank you so much. Any final thoughts you would like to share with founders or operators trying to scale their systems? Or
I mean, just inspect what you expect, right? So
yeah,
just keep moving forward and don't give up. And as they say,
yeah,
like most businesses fail, right? But you gotta
yeah,
keep just fighting. So
yeah,
just
exactly.
keep doing that, And in the end,
Wonderful.
life's happening for you, not to you, as Tony Robbins would say.
Love it. That's great. That's it. That's it. Thank you so much, Scott. And that's it for today's episode of the AI Interconnect podcast. And if you enjoyed it, share it with someone who's building the future, or better yet, someone who should be. And until next time, stay curious, stay creative, and keep building. Thank you, Scott.
Thank you.